Hello, this is ClearPath Retirement Radio Podcast. I am Stewart Smith here with Mitch Davies.
Good morning, everybody.
So today is going to be specifically for women. And the reason that we're going to do this is because the thing that I think I've realized in the last 25 years of doing this is that, women are increasingly the primary financial decision makers, and yet, most retirement planning is designed around men's careers, lifespans, and financial patterns. And women are unique and they have different needs, they have different goals, they there's a lot going on there. So we're going to take a whole hour today and just talk about why women are different and why their retirement planning is a little different, and specific strategies to maximize income, minimize taxes, and protect the future, right?
Sir.
We're going to actually give you some actionable steps to take and, why this is so important. And I'll just start the show here by sharing a little bit of why I feel passionate about this. My mother at age 51 got the worst news you can possibly get, and that she found out that my stepfather, who she'd been married to for many, many years, was diagnosed with cancer. And it wasn't a good form of cancer. And it was a cancer that would very quickly take him away from us in less than 18 months. And she was 51 at the time and was, planning for a future and a retirement that, he was very much a part of. And to make things even more difficult, at age 41, she had another child, that my little brother, Zach, who has turned out to be a fine young man. But she had Zach, and at the time his father passed, he was 11. And so she was, all of a sudden, her world changed dramatically. And she went from planning a future with my stepfather, trying to raise a young son, and, overnight that all changed. And she was now facing retirement alone, facing it with the challenge of trying to raise, an 11-year-old. And it was a very big change for her family. And having, witnessed the fear and anxiety that caused her, because, my stepfather was a developer. They lived in, Alpharetta, right outside of Atlanta, Georgia. They lived in a beautiful home. They had done, he had done well. But, at the time, he was a risk taker. And at the time, he had, really rolled the dice, not seeing his illness coming down the pipe. He had rolled the dice and really taken some risk with his investments to try and, put everything into a couple of big deals that, had they come to fruition and he had not been taken from us early, would have probably set them up for life. And the fact that all of a sudden, in the middle of those deals, that he got sick and was very quickly taken from us, those deals did not come to fruition, and my mother was left to kind of try and pick up the pieces and put things back together. And I was 31 when I got the news, and I had just really gotten into this business. And so it was a huge learning experience for me to see this. And instead of, being a stay at home mother, which she was at the time, she had to, go back into the workforce. She, ended up working for, another 15, 18 years. And, to be able to, retire not anywhere near the level that she had hoped for and that they had dreamed about. And so it was pretty tough for her, and she struggled with it. And this story is not unique. Women either face a sudden loss of their spouse, or they face a sudden divorce, maybe that they didn't see coming, many, many times, every day in this country. And it's a really scary place to be, because more than likely, statistically speaking, they weren't as involved in the financial stuff as the husband was. And so they now have a learning curve that they've got to get through really quickly and try and get their arms around the financial situation, and looking at the big picture and understanding where they stand. And I can tell you, like, not only are you dealing with the devastation of losing a spouse either through death or divorce, but to have to all of a sudden take the reins of the whole financial picture and try and navigate through that landscape. I mean, that is a really tough place to be. So if that's you, and if you are in that place, and you're looking for some advice, you're looking for guidance, you're looking for help, you're in the right place. This podcast is for you. And we're going to talk through, some different things here that I think matter. And, the first thing I'd like to talk about is, why is a women's retirement different? What makes it different? Well, the first thing that makes it different is, statistically speaking, women just live longer.
They do. Yeah.
They just do. And I've seen it with my own eyes for over 25 years now, that women just live longer. They take better care of themselves, typically. And, 1 in 3 women that live to age 65 will live to age 90. And that's a pretty crazy thing to think about. So, even if your spouse lives to full life expectancy, you're still going to find yourself at some point in life having to deal with this stuff.
Right.
And, God forbid that they leave us early, but even if they live to full life expectancy, you're going to outlive them, on statistically speaking, for at least 2 to 3 years. So it's critical that you have a basic understanding of the financial matters and what's happening in your household.
It is, Stewart. And, this is significant for me too. I mean, even in the 3 years I've been here, I've probably sat across from 1,000 couples, right? And it's always, generally we hear the story of everything's, like you said, planned around the husband's retirement, right? It's, hey, he's going to retire 65, and this is our plan, and this is the healthcare plan, and this is what retirement out to whatever life expectancy we choose looks like. It's all based around that. And, it's just, I've seen this so many different times where that doesn't play out how you'd expect, and everything doesn't match that scenario perfectly. And it's very important for both sides to understand. And that's why I'm glad we're talking about this, because the woman needs to be able to see what it looks like past that, because of all these stats here. The retirement is going to be longer, the life's going to be longer. And at some point, you're probably statistically going to end up in charge of all this stuff.
Yeah. And, when you're looking at planning for a 30-year plus retirement, you got to have a plan.
Yeah.
You can't just wing it for that time period. You have to really go. If you want to be successful, if you want to have the income that you need and that you desire for that kind of time frame, you have to really approach this thing strategically. There's some critical mistakes that you can make along the way that can cost you dearly. And what we want to talk about today is some of the pitfalls that we see, some of the mistakes that we see happen, and help you just get them on your radar screen, get you thinking about these things and what they can do